Hi, Humber PR. My name is Ryan Durgy, and I am so excited to be joining you today. I know it's virtual. I'm sorry that I couldn't be there in person, but I'm excited to answer some of Jessica's questions and hopefully provide some tips and some tricks and, some guidance that, I would have wanted to hear when I was in your shoes almost 5 years ago now. Wow. Yeah. So I started at Humber PR back in January 2019. That's wild. It does not seem like 5 years has, gone by. If you wanna connect on Twitter, my username's at Ryan Durgy. I guess it's called X now. X. If you wanna connect on X, or on TikTok or LinkedIn, you can find me by searching Ryan Durgy, RyanDurgy. I have a podcast that I host and produce called Here to Listen. That's HEAR. Here to Listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Google Podcasts, Amazon. So you can also check that out. Just want to give myself a little bit of a plug there. And you can reach out if you have any questions after this video. After you watch this video, if you want to connect more, feel free to do so. All right, let's get into it. So I was asked to define the field of PR. PR, public relations, also known as, professional communications, to me is really all about telling your story, whether that's you as a person, as someone who is creating a personal brand, or if you're working for a company, or if you're working for an agency and working with different clients, or if you're starting your own business. PR is all about the story side of things and getting your story out there and being that powerful voice and that empathetic voice and that insightful voice and, you know, just being something or someone that people look to um, for information and for valuable information. I think a lot of people really push PR as a sales tactic. And of course, I mean, companies or agencies, they're going to hire you to, do PR for them at the end of the day to probably drive sales or drive brand awareness, which then drives sales. And I get that is a piece of it. But if you're focusing on the sales element when you're pitching media, and I'm going to get into my experience working as a producer for CTV and getting probably hundreds of pitches a day. If you're trying just to sell a product when you're pitching your stories on the media relations aspect, um, in my opinion, it's you're not going to find as much success. You really have to focus on the story and crafting your storytelling abilities, connecting it to that hook, connecting it to something that you or the organization you're working for or the clients you're working for are doing in the community to propel others and to give back to the community, tying it to a cause, tying it to a hook, telling that story, telling the origin of the brand or the company or the organization or the nonprofit. It's all about the storytelling. And I'm sure you've already heard this in some of your other classes, but I'm really trying to say it in a way that will resonate with you because I was sitting where you're all sitting today. I mean, I don't know what class you're in because this is virtual, but yeah, I think that that's the biggest thing that I'll say about PR is you can look up all the definitions in the world, but in my opinion, it really is all about that storytelling, right? Even in a crisis, you're still telling your side of the story and how you're going to make things right and how you're going to fix the issue and how you're dedicated to finding a solution and making things right. Just as an example, it all ties back to the story. So the next question is, what is a day in the life like? So I'm guessing this is about my professional life. there's not there's not a ton of crazy exciting stuff going on in my personal life right now, but that's okay. Uh, so a day in the life right now, I'm working in internal communications for the provincial government, and it really ranges the types of things that I'm working on, and I'm truly grateful for my manager for giving me some really exciting and different tasks to build up my portfolio and get all kinds of different experience and really seeing where I fit at the organization. And I've written remarks, like speeches for our deputies, and I've written speeches, remarks for our minister, and I've written articles profiling and putting a spotlight on different employees within the ministry, and I'm helping launch a podcast internally, which is really exciting because as I said earlier, I have my own podcast, and yeah, just a range of different things. It really depends on the day, but a lot of writing, a lot of creativity, which I enjoy. I've done some communications planning as well, and yeah, it's really, for me, it's all about putting a spotlight on the people and the projects, wherever I'm working, but also where I'm currently working, and it's just about doing that every day, but in different ways, using different tactics. So that's what a day in the life looks like right now for me. All right. So next question is, what do you like best and least about the field of PR? I feel like I'm kind of on, that show where they do the Google top searches and the person's like ripping off like each question and then they answer it. I don't know why I feel that vibe. So I don't know if you're feeling that too, but anyways, maybe it's just me. It makes it more fun. Hopefully it's fun and engaging for you as well. So yeah, so what do I like best and least about the field of PR? Well, what I like best is the storytelling aspect of it. Any organization or really anywhere where you work, or if you're starting your own business, whatever you're doing really involves storytelling, right? Whether you're in sales or you're in PR, or, if you're just telling a friend or a family member about where you work, it's all about the story. What's behind that organization that you work for? What's behind the cause that you volunteer for? So I really like trying to figure out the story behind things. Maybe that's my journalism background. And I think another thing that I really enjoy with PR is distilling a lot of information in more simplified messaging that a bigger audience can relate to. I don't know. I find that I do a lot of that. I've only worked in corporate communications. I've never really worked for an agency. Like, I worked on like a short-term contract for an agency, but we're focused on working at the CNE, like the Canadian National Exhibition. So I was doing PR for them. But anyways, so because I've never really worked agency, I'm just talking more from a corporate experience. And I work with a lot of program areas that will send communications, and it's just not, it's fine, but it's just, I think that a lot of people put their heart and soul into writing this, and I'm so thankful for that. But the way that I think is always, what does the audience want to read or view or listen to? What does the audience want? And so I take what a program area sends, because, they're really the experts in that topic. And I distill the information in a way that I would understand, or that the audience would understand. And that's kind of fun too. I enjoy that. Um, what do I like least about working in PR? I feel like the thing that I enjoy least about working in PR, and I don't know if this is a cop-out answer, but I really don't love how people don't really understand what I do. I'll say I work in communications and people don't really get it. I think even if I switched up and said I work in PR, public relations, they'd probably just think that, oh, that means that you're working for a celebrity, and that you're, doing damage control for a celeb or something like that. And it's just like, there's so much behind the world of communications, and basically any kind of brand, organization, charity, whatever, has probably at least one communications person, right? Or they're putting out communications to the world. So it's such a big aspect of everyday life. And so I think that that's probably my least favorite, is other people can say what they do for work and people kind of understand it. But for me, I feel like people don't really get it. I don't know if any of you feel the same way. Anyways, I'm rambling on. Let's go to the next question. What would you recommend for students to work on if they want to go into a PR career? So I would recommend that you start reaching out to people that work at places that you would one day love to work at. It doesn't mean that you're going to necessarily get an internship there. You may, but just start to reach out to those people and really dive deep when you do a coffee chat. Because most people I find are pretty open to coffee chats. You'd be surprised. Like I still get requests, and even when I've been busy or you know at different points in my life, I've done plenty of coffee chats because when I was at Humber PR, I was reaching out and people were giving me the time of day for the coffee chats, which I always was a little bit surprised about because I'm like, aren't you a little bit busy for this? So now I always try to do that, whether it's a virtual chat or a phone call or an in-person coffee chat. But yeah, that would be my advice is like decide on what kind of industries you'd like to work in, what companies or clients would you like to work with, and then find someone that's doing that and reach out to them and then just pick their brain. Don't even go into it expecting that they can get you a job, but just create that connection, but get to know them. Ask them what their journey was like, and that would be the first step. And the rest of it is just building your skills. In a program like Humber PR, building your skills when you're doing your internship, asking a lot of questions. Also, make sure to network with the people in your class because that's really where your first networking begins. And I've had scenarios where I was asked to help out with a cool, TIFF event, the Toronto International Film Festival. And they needed some extra volunteers too. And they said, do you know anyone? And I reached out to the people from my Humber PR class that I knew were hard workers and would put in the time and the dedication and the love and the effort into this really cool event and get some cool experience and all that. And that was all because I worked with them on projects and got to know them in Humber PR. What is something you wish you knew when you were a student at Humber? I wish I knew when I was a student at Humber. I guess I'll switch around this question and say, what advice would I give myself as a Humber PR student, like looking back on that time? And I would just say, if you don't already know, everything's going to work out. Don't stress about your internship because everyone's going to get an internship. Of course, you want to get one that's the right fit for you. But at the end of the day, it's like a couple of weeks or a couple months, and then you're going to get into the real world. So really focus on getting an internship. Like I feel like I did get an internship where you're going to build up your portfolio, right? Where you're going to get to work on cool projects and be able to leave that internship with a bunch of writing samples or a bunch of multimedia samples or, employee communications experience or, press release experience or pitching experience. So, yeah, I think I'd give myself just the advice to not overthink things too much. I know you overthink things and everything is going to work out and trust your abilities and use your resources and use your network around you. I think that that's important to remember. A big thing that I think I knew when I was in Humber PR, but I like to tell people in Humber PR this is the program really focuses on the agency experience, which is great experience because you're working with different clients and you get a lot of experience quick. And there's a lot of agencies that are hiring and it's probably less maybe competitive than corporate in some ways because there's so many different agencies hiring all the time and all that. But you don't have to go in an agency. And I didn't. I mean, I worked like a short-term contract at an agency for the CNE for a month, but I worked all corporate and have worked corporate, and that's what I wanted to do, and that's what I did. And so don't feel pressured into working at an agency. Yeah, if you want to work at an agency for an internship to get the experience in the portfolio, totally get that. But if you see yourself in the corporate world, go for it. The next question is, what do you think separates a good PR professional and a great one? So I think that what separates a good PR person from a great PR person is going back to that storytelling. I'll get into my experience in a moment, but when I was getting, potentially hundreds of pitches a day, the ones that would stand out would be the ones that would relate to the audience of the show that I was producing for and the ones that would tell a great story that was engaging because journalists and producers and writers and all that are so busy and they're getting probably tons of pitches. So if you can help a little bit with that workload by saying, hey, here's a great story, they'll take it and run with it, right? Like they'll contact you, they'll ask questions, they'll get a spokesperson potentially from what you're pitching and interview them for an article. Like there's so many different things that can happen from just pitching a good story. So I think that that's what separates a good PR person from a great PR person is that a great PR person knows how to tell a story. The next question is, what are some trends that I feel are important to be talking about in PR? I think understanding the digital landscape, understanding TikTok, and understanding Instagram, and understanding, being a leader on LinkedIn, for example. I think that that's a big part of PR, and something that people should focus on is, how do you reach such a big audience that you can reach on the internet in an effective way, and what channels do you use to do that? So I think that that's an important trend to think about. I'll wrap things up with a little bit more about me. Maybe I should have started with this, but I got the questions out of the way, and hopefully you liked my answers. But yeah, I graduated from Western University in sociology and criminology, so nothing to do with, I mean, in sociology, it's a study of people and groups, and a lot of writing, but I wasn't in a journalism program or a communications program. Maybe I took some courses here and there. But then after Western, I loved Western, great school. I went to Humber for journalism. And with Humber, I got a lot of really great experience, writing stories and reporting on stories, in front of the camera or on radio. And I really understood the storytelling element of that, and ended up interning at Entertainment Tonight Canada. I ended up working on some short-term contracts with eTalk, and really working right in the field of media and entertainment news, which I love, and pop culture and all of that. But I found that it was a lot of contracts. So I ended up going back to school for PR at Humber PR. Probably a lot of you can relate to that, and did the 1-year certificate starting in January 2019. Great experience, great professors, really great people that I met, and I got a lot of good experience there. I ended up doing a lot of coffee chats. I ended up meeting with a lot of people. Ended up landing an internship at Sick Kids, and the Hospital for Sick Children, and that was 2 months. And that was a really cool experience, because at the time, I think they may have changed their internship program up now, but at the time, they they got you to work with the different parts of communication. So I got to work in employee communications, and then I got to work in the media relations side, and then I got to work more with the creative team. And it was cool because I got to do all these different things. I think they've changed it since, but not that would be my big advice with an internship is, I left Sick Kids with a portfolio of, stories that I had written. So definitely my recommendation is, wherever you end up for your internship, ask them what your day-to-day will look like, and, really try to decipher whether you're going, and you can even ask, but really decipher what you're going to be able to take from the internship. You could even ask, will I be writing stories? Will I be writing pitches? Will I get a chance to do that eventually? Maybe it won't be right off the bat, but will I get that experience at some point? Because that's going to help you when you start applying for jobs after your internship, because you never know. I'm so grateful for my experience at Sick Kids. It was a really great internship. Before that, I worked at the CNE briefly for a month. I got a 1-month contract with an agency to do PR, which was kind of cool, getting paid for that right before I started my internship. It just worked out perfectly. And that was through networking. That was where I had reached out to someone who had worked there before. They had said that they'd already hired people for the season. And they said, send your resume anyways, because maybe for next year's CNE. And so I ended up sending it anyways. I was kind of hesitant, because I'm like, well, what's the point? Like, by next year, I'll be working full time. Like, I'm probably not going to take a 1-month contract a year from now, right? But I sent it anyways. And a couple days later, they contacted me because someone who had gotten the role ended up getting a full-time job somewhere else and was leaving during the contract. And so I got hired for a month at the CNE. Worked out. Then went to Sick Kids, great experience. And then I got hired in January 2020 at a travel company called G Adventures. So getting hired at a travel company in 2020, you can probably see where this is going. Unfortunately, by February, a lot of things started changing in the travel world. And then by March, there was the first round of layoffs, and then I was part of the second round of layoffs. And that was a great experience, but, short-lived. And after that, I ended up back in media. So I actually worked at CTV Morning Live in Ottawa, moved to Ottawa, was living in Ottawa for a year. And in that role, I got a lot of really great experience as far as, getting hundreds potentially of emails a day with pitches. So seeing the other side of things, seeing the types of stories that PR people were pitching to get onto the morning show, and really trying to decipher what would work well for this audience. And my biggest tip with that would be, if you can, really make your pitch unique to the person or outlet that you're pitching to. Number one. Number two, tell a story. Don't just focus on selling. That was one of my biggest things is telling a story and really showcasing why the audience of the person or the producer or the show that you're pitching, why would their audience care? When people could sell me on that in just like a short couple of maybe paragraphs, couple of sentences in an email. You can attach a PDF with more info. If I need more info, I'll open it. But just tell me in like a paragraph or two what story you're pitching and why the audience would care. Why would they be interested in this story? And but that was a great experience to get to know the other side of things. I then worked at Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment in internal communications, great organization, got a lot of experience working with executives and working on employee communications and talking to an audience that was, a majority of hourly employees, right? Because you have the concessions people, the ticket people, the ushers, like you have the majority of employees that are hourly, and then you have the rest that are salaried. So I really got that experience working with an hourly audience, which is part-time. Maybe they have a full-time job on the side, or maybe they're in school. And that's a totally different audience than someone working 9 to 5 every day in a corporate world. So that was some great experience. And I definitely built a portfolio there. And then I ended up at the provincial government and I'm enjoying it. I'm getting a lot of great experience. I have a lot of experience now that I look back on it, a range of experience really, but it's all led me to where I'm at today. And I'm grateful for all of it. And I'm still learning. I'm not perfect. I don't have all the answers, definitely not. But I hope that some of my insights can help you as far as it goes, trying to get a job or get an internship. I would say that, like, obviously everyone's going to say network, but, even customizing your cover letter to say the person's name who's hiring. Look up if it says reporting to manager of or reporting to director of. Search on LinkedIn, director of at whatever company or manager of at whatever organization, and then specify that in the cover letter. I've had that work for me where someone has literally said, that stood out of all the cover letters that we were getting, that you actually said my name. And so little things like that will stand out. Send a thank you after you meet with someone for a coffee connection. That's important. And, stay in touch with them. And again, reach out to people who are working at places or with organizations that you would love to work for one day. It doesn't mean that your internship is going to be there. It doesn't even mean that your first job will be there, but maybe eventually you'll end up being there, especially if you believe in yourself, you can end up there. And I think that you staying in touch and building connections and, putting a face to a name, right? It's not just another resume or cover letter. You're connecting with people and it's all about relationships. PR is about relationships. The world and work and everything is about relationships. So building those relationships up, and staying in touch with people and pursuing opportunities that just feel like, in your heart, you feel are the right thing. That's going to get you far. I've really enjoyed getting to answer these questions, and I hope that this has been valuable to you. Feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm also on TikTok and X under Ryan Durgy. If you search RyanDurgy on LinkedIn, feel free to add me and connect with me. Ask me if, any questions that you may still have. And I just hope that this has been helpful, and I'm wishing you all the best. Good luck, and you got this.